Okay, got a Hyundai with a check engine light on. You want to scan it, see what's going on, pull a code on it. Got a PO326 trouble code. That's a knock sensor on this Hyundai and a lot of other Hyundais with this GDI 2.4 liter engine. You have to take off the intake manifold. Remove that. Disconnect your battery first. You don't want to short anything out. Always do that first. Take the cover off. Pops right off. Pretty easy. Take all your connectors off. Don't pull anything. They'll come apart. Just take your time. You don't want to break any connectors. You'll be sorry. And you'll be fooling with little wires. Tiny little wires. Get a little pry, maybe a pick or a little screwdriver. Should come right out. They can be stubborn sometimes, as you can see. Take your air intake from your air box out. Take your harness loose from the top of your intake. I think it's 3 little 10mm bolts. Push it to the side, get everything out of your way. Take loose your intake from your box. Just a little 10mm right there, it comes right loose. Pull that loose, and you want to take your throttle body away from your intake. Don't pull it together because you've got hoses, and it's just real easy just to take those 4 bolts out of your throttle body and just hold it to the side. Maybe clean it when you got it off. You can look behind there, make sure your butterfly is clean. Clean it out with some carburetor cleaner. If it looks good, just leave it alone. You don't want to damage anything. That one looks pretty dirty. Anyway, let's get through all the connectors. Here's your bolts for your intake. I'm taking them loose. You got one intake bolt that's right in the middle of the intake, and it's the access hole right in the middle. Get your dipstick out of the way. I'll show you what an access hole is. It's right in the middle of the intake itself. Look at these right here. That's where your middle part, where your middle access hole is. Take that out. Comes right out, and you can leave the bolt in there. It won't fall. The intake itself will hold it. Don't worry about dropping it. There's your knock sensor. Right there, it's 1 bolt holding it, but you got to take your fuel rail loose or off to get it out. It's right under your fuel rail. That's about right in the middle of the engine, basically. Bolt it to the block. You loosen those, I think it's 3 or 4 little 12mm bolts. Just pull it back a little bit. You don't have to take it all the way off, because the wire on that connector will break. They break a lot. Just kind of move it back a little bit, and you can get it with a little 12mm swivel. Comes right out. There's your old knock sensor. Get your new knock sensor, put the flat end towards the block. Nut goes on the pointed side. Start it by hand. Don't ever try to impact something in. It will cross thread. Just take your time. You'll save time by taking your time, believe it or not. Try to rush everything, you'll break something. Change all your gaskets on your intake. O-ring on your big O-ring on your throttle body. Make sure everything's clean. Out your way. Tighten your fuel rail back up. Make sure there's nothing stuck under your intake before you put it down in there. Get your middle bolt started. Get them all running by hand, always by hand, then you can run them up. Don't ever rush. It will cross thread, and you'll be sorry. Then get your air intake back on. Throttle body's back on. Connect your battery. Put on your cover. Drove it for about 20 minutes. Light didn't come on. Everything's fine. Running great.